Ready to go? All right. Call the meeting to order. Jen, will you take roll?
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Abraham?
Here.
Mayor Lindsay?
Here. You have attached the June 2nd minutes. Are there any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 2nd.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have before you the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any adjustments, corrections?
Make a motion to approve June 9th agenda.
No second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appearances, acknowledgements, and correspondence. We have Ann Highland here from Heartland Consumer Power District, and she's going to brief us on the integrated resource plan that is required by the federal government every 5 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Hello. As the mayor said, I'm going to be presenting information on the integrated resource plan that Heartland prepares on behalf of the city of Madison. Adam Graff, one of our engineers, actually does all the work on this, but he is away at a conference, so asked me to step in for him. Just a little background on what the integrated resource plan, or IRP, is. All cities that have a WAPA allocation, a federal hydropower allocation, are required to submit an IRP every 5 years. And back in 1997, Heartland created an IRP cooperative to help all of our customers meet their requirements. So again, this is a requirement of the city because you have a hydropower allocation through WAPA, but it's just a service that Heartland provides to our customers. It's not anything that we're required to do, but we do it on behalf of our customers. So every year, we actually submit an annual report to WAPA along with every 5 years doing this IRP. Madison's actually part of our large customer cooperative, which consists of Madison, Miller, Sioux Falls, and Volga. The rest of our customers with allocations, they're part of a small customer IRP, so we submit 2 different reports, but this is the one that Madison is part of. There's 4 main components to the IRP, which is the historical load information, the load forecast, the supply side and demand side resource summaries, and then the action plan, which I'll go through each of those components and what they consist of. This graph, it just shows specifically for Madison what the city's load forecast is. You can see the load history starting in 2004, and then from 2014 on, it shows the forecast. The blue line shows what demand is, or in terms of that darker color is the demand forecast going out the next 5 years. Obviously, this report is for the next 5 years since we file it every 5 years. And then the orange line is the energy use, and so the actual and then the forecast. You can see that the dip right around 2009 there in the energy, that was during the recession. This graph shows the forecast resources, it's the capacity for 2014 to 2019. The line on the bottom, the blue line, the one going through there, that's Heartland's demand forecast, and this is now aggregate. This is not just for the city of Madison. This is for all Heartland customers. Again, since we report on behalf of all of our customers, we include all that information in this report as allowed by the cooperative from WAPA. So this is the forecast for all of Heartland's customers. The blue line shows what Heartland is forecasted, and then we also had a forecast done by Burns & McDonnell. As you can see, their forecast is slightly different in those first couple of years, and that's a little bit the darker line above it. And again, this is for demand. The stacked bars show our resource summary. The orange bars on the very bottom show the WAPA allocations, and now this is an aggregate WAPA allocation for all Heartland customers. So again, this is all of the city's resources, but for the purposes of this, we include it as an aggregate resource. Right above that is Laramie River Station, the kind of grayish color, which is our coal-fired plant in Wyoming. Right above that is Wayland Energy Center 2, which is another coal-fired plant we have down in Nebraska. Above that is the blue short bar, that's the Wessington Springs Wind Energy Center. Right above that is customer generation, and customer generation includes contracts that we have for some diesel units. One is out in Wessington Springs, South Dakota. We have those on contract to make sure we have all of our reserve requirements. They're mainly peaking sources that really don't get ran. And then the top blue is a contract power, again, to make sure that we're meeting our reserve requirements. So this is just the capacity, ensuring that we have enough capacity to meet demand.
And then again, I had mentioned this too in that other meeting, and that the WAPA demand drops in 17,
Yes.
not because we're getting less, but because Marshall is switching.
Yep. Marshall, Minnesota is one of our largest customers, and they will be leaving Heartland at beginning of 2017. So you can see both our demand drops and also that resource drops because we take that WAPA, their WAPA allocation out of there. And then you can see in 2018 and 2019, the LRS, that gray bar, increases as does the Wayland Energy Center Unit 2 bar. That's because right now we have contracts in place for some of the energy out of those units. They're just contract sales that have nothing to do with our customers, like the city of Madison or the utilities. We sell that as a block of power. So those contracts end, so then those increase. And everything represented in this graph and all these graphs is anything that we currently have in writing for contracts. You know, we're obviously working on selling that excess power that we would have moving forward, but right now we just include what we have in writing. The next graph is similar. This one is for energy though, as opposed to demand. So again, the two lines show Heartland's energy forecast and then the energy forecast that was prepared by Burns McDonnell. And now the bars are showing the actual energy produced by our resources. Same order there with WAPA, LRS, WEC2, the wind farm. The customer generation goes away. As I said, we don't really use that generation. It's just there for capacity requirements. We don't use it unless we need to because they're expensive resources. And then the contract, and then also market, which you can see in 14 and 15, we will be short to make sure that we have enough energy, so we purchase that excess energy off the market. Any questions on those? This is the action plan portion of the IRP report. This just shows the different programs that we are implementing on behalf of our customers for the next 5 years. The first chunk there is economic development incentives, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We implemented our Energy One incentive in 2013, and that's a incentive for newer expanding businesses who have a 1 megawatt load or larger. The next one is the intermediate load incentive, which is similar to that, and that's a program we're in the process of working on right now for some of our smaller customers, similar to the Energy One. Our growth incentives, hiring incentives, things that we've been doing for a while with economic development and plan to continue those programs. Energy efficiency and DSM. Some of these programs are ones that Madison does currently participate in. Other ones are the ones that we're gonna be looking at doing in the future for energy efficiency, kind of reevaluating where we're at. And then operations is just real-time metering systems, market operations, surplus power marketing, all things that, you know, Heartland does on a daily basis, basically. Just kind of in summary, the IRP is a report that was developed by Heartland and reviewed by all of our customers. The draft report was sent to all of our customers for any comments. And each of our customers, it's a requirement that we have approval of that report, so we can include either the minutes from the city commission meeting or a resolution being passed to show that it was approved by the city. And that will go in our IRP report, which is due to WAPA on June 16th. And that is all I have, so if there's any questions on the IRP report.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, on this, we should have a motion to acknowledge it so that it's in our minutes.
If you would jump down the agenda a
Yep.
little bit, please, yes, and if you would. We want to approve the plan, correct?
Yes,
Ann?
correct.
Please,
Which is in new business number 1.
it is.
Does
So-
he have to, do we have to authorize the mayor to sign it, or?
No signature required, all
Nope.
you want is a copy of the minutes showing that we approved it.
That we approved it.
Okay.
Acknowledgement of receipt of the plan. Is that what you want?
That we approved.
That
Yes,
we,
it has to be approval.
Yes.
Approval.
approval of the IRP as presented by Heartland.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Okay.
Keep the lights on.
Yep.
We will.
Yeah.
Do our best. Thanks, Ann.
And we will go back up to number 2, acknowledge the May building permit. And that is attached, if there's any discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under old business, we have the appeals for the sidewalk variances, and at this point in time in that, I'm waiting for an answer from David. So, until he gets here, I would like to move on down the agenda, because there was a question as to whether or not, and what the process would be to bring something, back up that had already been voted on. And so David was looking into that information today and was going to give us his report when he got here. So at this point in time, I don't know what the answer is, so I would like to step on to new business number 2. Authorize the mayor to sign the 2014-2015 fuel agreement with Lake County. That is in your packet. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion on that?
This is just the annual thing.
The annual thing,
Every year.
and the
Just the
rate
annual.
remained the same this year? No, what was their?
No,
No.
13, 14.
it went up to 14, let me find where I'm at here,
Mhm.
forgive me. It went up to 14 cents a gallon. Previous years, last year, we were at 8 cents a gallon. What has simply happened is they needed to pay for some EPA testing, also had to do some repairs on their tanks, which totaled about $6,000, and they are simply sharing that cost with us. Okay, talked to Fred about whether there's other alternatives out there, and we are in agreement at this time that this is still the best scenario for us.
Best way to go.
Should probably look into that further for next year. There's other government contracts out there where you could use a card pump somewhere else. And probably wouldn't pay 14 cents, so.
Okay.
Anyhow, for this year, I would make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the 2014-15 fuel agreement with Lake County.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. David has arrived. Under old business, the appeals to the sidewalk variances. You were going to check in on the proper procedure?
Well, it sort of depends on what the commission intends to do. It was properly set for the agenda, so the matter can be discussed. But the matter was also voted on and settled. So the only way that that issue can be brought back is if there is a motion to reconsider. But one of the two members who made the motion on the prevailing side of the motion has to make the motion to reconsider. So either Nick or Jeremiah have to make the motion to reconsider. Otherwise, this matter is only here for discussion only, with no action that the commission can even take. If Nick and Jeremiah choose to make a motion to reconsider, then the matter can be put on the floor for actual action. Otherwise, this is for discussion and listening only.
Okay, so
And it
now,
doesn't-
meaning,
Excuse me, it doesn't matter, we can do it last week as opposed to this week, it doesn't have to be within the same week.
This was settled last week. There was a motion to grant the variances with
Okay.
modification. So it was settled, it's done. There's only two options tonight. This commission can listen to members from the public and discuss it, but take no action. Or Nick or Jeremiah have to make the motion to reconsider. It has to be made by a motion,
By one of the members who made it first or the second.
the prevailing motion, that's exactly right. So just for instance, Kelly or Mike can't make a motion to reconsider here tonight.
okay, but it can be open for, since we do have the two parties involved,
That's
they can discuss it, and then at that point in time, then it's up to the other two, one of the two, to make a motion to reopen it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And if that motion does not happen, then it was simply discussion and there's no action taken.
Okay.
Am I remotely clear?
Works for me.
At this point in time, then, I guess I'm gonna ask if either of you or both of you would wanna, speak to it.
Well, I guess I'd just say thanks for listening. I guess do feel like the request that we put forward and was approved by the sidewalk committee was reasonable for a number of reasons.
Okay. Ed, I'm gonna ask you to come up in that, because this is a live recording, so that, if someone at home is listening in that, they can, and you can grab 2 chairs, yes, please, thank you, so that it's at the microphone.
Okay, should I start at the beginning?
Please, please,
All right.
because otherwise someone at home is gonna call in saying, what did they say?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for listening. I guess I would say I didn't understand that should have been here last week. I thought it was a done deal when it was approved by the sidewalk committee. That was my impression. I was not I'm here instead of my wife, who was actually leading you could say, the cause on our request. But I guess I'm here in her place tonight, because she was in the process of moving my daughter's stuff up to Brookings. But I guess I'd say thank you for listening for our request. I guess I wanted to request consideration of the variance. I do feel like it's a reasonable request that was approved by the sidewalk committee. One of the things, I guess, when I look at it, I feel like is because of the nature of our lot, being it's a long, narrow lot. When I walk to the south, when I walk down to Fifth Street, look north, it looks to me like 3 feet lines up with the sidewalk to the north. Also, if you were up to Art at the corner of 6th and Roosevelt, the street literally shifts to the west. So the curb does not line up with the curb. Our block does not line up with the curb to the north. It goes west. So the 3 feet, in our opinion, made sense. I think the discussion was based on snow. I'll remove the snow. I think my neighbors would vouch. I'm probably out there at 5 o'clock in the morning removing the snow. I get up, I go to work early. If it's an issue of snow, I'll remove it. So the other question I guess I had was, how are decisions from the city commission communicated? I found out about the change from a phone call from Red. I guess that was just a concern of mine too. We would not have known unless we'd have got a phone call from Red. And that's just, honestly, just a concern of mine. But I thank you for listening. If it doesn't change, as we stated in our letter that my wife prepared, if things do not change, we appreciate the consideration, but we will respect the decision of the committee, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Red?
I think Ed said everything pretty well. I can't add much more, other than, if snow removal is the issue, it's the property owner's responsibility. And it just means we might do a little more snow blowing or shovel. But like I stated in the sidewalk committee meeting, I had measured the snow that's thrown into my yard last winter in preparation for this, and at no point did it exceed 2 feet. So the 3 feet seems totally reasonable as the property owner.
Okay.
And also the 3 feet, I guess, was in taking into account the trees that are in our yard, that me as a tall guy, I can literally walk down that sidewalk 3 feet and not hit the trees. If it's in 4 feet, 5 feet, I hit them. So,
Okay, well, I want to thank you both for coming in, and, this is the process of once something has been passed, and that is a learning process still for me, and that's why the question had been raised to David to check into, the proper procedure, so that we weren't doing something, basically, outside of the law, and so understanding, as I think I do what he said, then it basically is in Nick and Jeremiah, it's their call to make a motion for reconsidering. So,
First, the motion to reconsider would have to be made, and that would have to be passed. Then, their requests for the appeal, sort of anew, then are on the table. So it would be 2 total motions if they were made.
okay.
So we're basically redoing, in the reconsider, we're saying, we're gonna bring this up on the table again and consider it.
That's exactly right.
And
All you're
then-
doing is
if
considering.
that
You're not
passes-
granting their variance by a motion to reconsider.
Yeah.
You're just putting it back on the table for consideration. That's right, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming in, I appreciate this. I've looked at it from a couple different perspectives. I would like to reconsider this. I can't bring that to the table because of what David said, but I would like to reconsider it, and my belief is that we should reconsider it and go back to the original recommendation of the sidewalk committee for a 3-foot variance. My question to these two guys is gonna be, are you gonna show your sidewalk, or are we gonna have to send the sidewalk police out, the snow police out to, you know, do some, and you, before I could ask a question, you already said, we'll make sure it's cleared.
I think
Okay.
I think if you were to ask people that plow the streets, my car gets off the street, my cars,
Yeah.
I have a fleet of cars with a bunch of kids, but they're off the street, so they don't have to go around them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remove my snow. I'm the first one in my neighborhood to remove my snow.
Okay, Ed, we'll put you down for being first, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
You know what to do. But that's what I'd like to see us do now. That being said, with all rules of order at hand, before we can do that, one of you two guys are gonna have to make the motion to reconsider. Can the second come from somebody else?
I believe the second can come from someone else.
And Mike, you were not here last week. Do you have any questions?
Well, for the most part, when you look at, and I've said this so many times, how appreciative I am of people who are on those committees, who are walking the streets, who are looking at all of the sidewalks, whether it's to be repaired or put in or whatever. And I guess to me, 3 foot, 4 foot, we're talking 12 inches here. They got the snow plows, they're out plowing them, they'll take care of that. I'm convinced of that. We got other problems in the community where, and trust me, ask my wife, ask me as I'm out running in the winter. I got a lot of places where I'd wish they'd be up at 5 in the morning shoveling and clearing it. And so I'm not worried about that. And yeah, 3 foot, 5 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot. I don't have a problem with the 3 foot. I mean, I know where you guys are at. I've been there. I run past it. Whatever. I don't have a problem with the 3 foot.
Yes, as far as, I appreciate you guys coming in, and it's obviously important to you to come back and go through all this. The matter really hasn't changed, in my opinion. I mean, it was well presented that you wanted 3 feet at the time. The sidewalk committee debated on 3 or 4 feet with a split vote. I'm personally uninclined to go with the 3 foot, just because of the hazard with the snow and that they need as much room. And it's not just snow, it's utility encroachments and other things. And I personally would like to keep them all as close to 5 as possible, but that's what the appeals process is for. And thank you for coming in and making your case. But I haven't heard anything new tonight, I guess, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as, thank you for coming in, by the way, I'm trying to stay consistent here. From what I could tell, your hardship was the branch hanging over the sidewalk, the reason we moved it, or you asked to move to 3 feet, but there's another ordinance that dictates how far above things can hang from a sidewalk. And I guess we have established 5 feet for a reason, and we try to stay consistent. I don't want to get into a routine that everybody that doesn't want their sidewalk 5 feet out comes in and asks for a variance and gets it granted. But it seems to be that's why you just don't want the sidewalk that close to your house, which I can understand. But I'm not worried about you guys moving your snow. I'm worried in a few years when you move to a nicer part of town and somebody moves in and they don't move their snow. The city has enough trouble with snow removal on sidewalks the way it is. I don't want to add to the problem, unless, I guess you can talk me out of it.
Well, I thought.
I'll give you an
part of our request-
opportunity, but
Part of our
You-
request was the dynamics of our lot, and the fact that the street shifts to the west is a big part of it. I think if you were to go down and stand on his corner on Fifth and Roosevelt and look north And I did not measure, I did not do anything, just by eyeballing it though. It looks like 3 feet because of the dynamics. Our street shifts to the west. Our block of Roosevelt does not line up with the block to the north. The curb is farther to the west.
On the
So it
block
looks like
north.
3 feet lines up with the sidewalk to the north. And we do have a long skinny lot, so that 2 feet means something to us, as my wife explained in her request, for many reasons.
And there's the trees that are on both of our lots, as well as if we were gonna stay consistent with Roosevelt, which is only a 4-block street, the entire block from 9th to 8th, the sidewalk is right next to the curb. It's not even 2 inches in from the curb, let alone 5 feet. It's right next to the curb.
Right. That's a
The oth-
problem too, by the way.
The other thing that I noted in that, in what you had written and what I saw too is that as the plows come south, the road tees. And so it's not an area where they're able to maintain, say, 20 miles an hour to throw the snow as far as possible. When they come down to that corner, they have to be slowed down to make a turn either to the right or to the left. And that is what I see as to why you say that you never had more than 2.5 feet of snow onto your lot, is because the vehicle had slowed down to make the turn. And so,
My driveway is shoveled and then swept. There's no snow in it at any time. And my sidewalk would be kept the same way, regardless of whether it's 3 or 4 feet in. It's just a matter of pride on our corner. I've been there 24 years. I don't plan on moving to a nicer part of town.
There probably isn't one.
There is.
And we understand the position you're in of setting a precedent and that sort of thing too. It just, I guess, looking at it based on the dynamics or the facts of the way our lot is, it's a long skinny lot, that would be a better scenario for us. But like we said in our letter, we will respect and we will put sidewalk in and respect the decisions made here. Just really thank you for listening.
well, and at last week's meeting, Mr. Johnson had made a motion to table it for a week. And since we weren't following, the exact recommendation of the sidewalk committee, which is a rarity, I was for that motion in that, but, in the capacity that I sit, I can't second or make a motion in that. But the motion died for lack of a second, and then the motion was to, grant it at a 4-foot depth. So when you talk about the communication, I felt that, that we weren't in a dire strait where it had to be made at that point in time, and 1 week could have improved that communication, meaning that there wouldn't have been a decision last week, and you'd have had an opportunity to be here this week. So,
Couple other points I want to throw out. I know that in other places around town, how we're always trying to line up those sidewalks so it doesn't, someone in a wheelchair doesn't come off and then have to, deviate down 4, 5, 10 feet to get to the other sidewalk. And so, if it makes sense to put it at the 3 foot, that would certainly make sense to do that. And then, one other thing I want to throw out is, here, this is what Madison is, this is why Madison is Madison, why it's so great, is you got 2 neighbors that have worked together and said, hey, listen, let's do this together so that we don't have one sidewalk coming, and then all of a sudden you gotta try and just jag off a little bit, and then you end up 2 feet off, and so now you're coming and you got people going every which way. And so that's great. We got a couple of people coming in and neighbors talking to each other, trying to make their neighborhood look as good as, I guess, some other neighborhood Mr. Corbin's talking about. So, but, that's great, and that, I think, is what helps make Madison as great as it is, when you have people working together, trying to do what they can.
I was just gonna say almost exactly what Mike was gonna say, and I think somebody made that comment last week. It was very nice, the way you presented it, that it lines up, it's very consistent, having that, the way that you wanted the sidewalk to run through 3 feet on both your properties. as a result of that. That's why I think, I don't have any trouble with, again, rescinding or reconsidering the motion last week and moving back, because I think you will take care of it. Your properties are both well cared for. I've looked things over. Trolled you over the weekend two different times, and I had to tell your son, don't worry, I'm not a stalker, just doing my job here. But all things considered, I can't see why we wouldn't go with the original that's why I wanted to wait a week when I made that request last week, because I wanted to look at it more and look at the situation over more. And I can't see why we couldn't go with that 3-foot variance,
Yeah,
as originally said.
absolutely, Commissioner Johnson, and especially, we're putting in a sidewalk. It's not something that has to be done tomorrow. I mean, let's wait a week and check it out, look into it even further as a commission, if indeed we're not going to rely upon the other citizens who have already looked into this and have already voted on it in committee. Then, all right, yep, we need to, because it's not a formality when committees bring things to us, and if it does require us to take an extra week, again, especially a sidewalk, it's certainly not going in tomorrow morning. I mean, it'll be later this summer or whenever, but, so.
Your Honor,
Jen?
the only comment I would make is there will be a slight transition at the very north end to go to the landing, what's referred to as a landing pad. Those are for
The ADA corner
landings
is in.
For wheelchairs, it has to be a flat section, so that'll be just a slight transition. And for what it's worth, I think it's appropriate to, at least because the parties weren't here last week, to allow it to be reconsidered. The vote will be what it would be.
Is the
but
transition into 3 feet or out to
it will be-
5?
It will be, I believe the landing is about 7 feet off. It's really close to the radius, what's referred to the radius, but it would have to go to the landing to provide for the appropriate flat 2% minimum or maximum cross slope for a wheelchair to turn and negotiate the ramp.
So does that ramp come to the east or toward the west?
The ramp is the diagonal ramp that goes to the
Okay,
north,
so
to
it
the
would be,
northeast.
but it would be east of the sidewalk, whether it's at 3 feet or 4 feet, I guess is what I'm asking.
It would be west of the 3-foot alignment, just west of the 3-foot alignment.
That boulevard's been basically missing since December 27th, we had a water main break.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanna talk about safety, that's
So it's-
not there.
So it's gonna be a rebuild anyway, and then the landing pad would be put in as a part of it.
Right. I can't remember right now what the landing's in or not, but
I think it is, isn't it?
I think the.
Going east it is.
Going east.
Going east it's there,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
The landing's there, just the final ramp part, the short ramp part
Okay.
is not there.
The north part's gone because of the water main break.
Got it.
It's broke twice there. Short period of time.
Hmm?
That one was twice.
Once there and once just to the south, I believe.
It's been twice in that same spot.
Twice at the same spot?
Yeah. It was one time in the fall, I think the year before, and then just right between Christmas and New Year's last year, really cold day. Yeah, sorry for the guys out there working.
First, the sidewalk committee gave us a 3-2 vote, which wasn't an overwhelming endorsement of their recommendation, but what do we need to do to open this back up?
You or Nick need to make a motion to reconsider. Any commissioner can, of course not the mayor, but any other commissioner can second that. And it will be reopened for consideration.
And then it would go to discussion,
Then it goes,
And then it would go
actually
to-
goes to discussion.
and
We've
then
got
it would
little
go
far
to
field
to a
here.
vote.
Yes,
Okay.
discussion and then a vote, that's right.
Okay.
So we could deny it then?
Yes, you can. You're not approving their variance request by reconsidering.
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reconsider. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Jen, note. Okay. So further discussion.
Actually, I'm gonna call for division.
Excuse me?
Division. Jeremiah didn't vote.
I didn't vote. I,
It's too late now.
damn it.
Well,
So it was a 3-2?
Yes, but it's not 2/3,
doesn't need to be two-thirds.
doesn't it?
No, when you and I discussed the issue, I reviewed it, it doesn't need to be two-thirds, it needs to be majority only.
So it passed.
Okay.
It passed, the motion passed, it even if it's 3-2.
Okay, further discussion.
The legal standard for the commission's reference is that the commission, if it follows its ordinances, is supposed to look at whether strict compliance with this section, the sidewalk section, creates an extraordinary hardship. If the commission finds that it's an extraordinary hardship, it can and should grant the variance. If it doesn't find that, it should technically deny. That's the legal standard. Extraordinary hardship is a subjective standard. It's like most legal standards. What's reasonable to you might not be reasonable to me.
Fair enough.
An extraordinary hardship to one person is not another, but that's the legal language in our ordinances. That's the standard for granting a variance.
Mike, did you want to, did I misunderstand you, Commissioner Walter, or did you want to reconsider, table this again for a week to look at it some more? Did you want to? I don't feel a need to, but I just wondered in your discussion if that's what you were saying.
No, I don't think we need to go another week.
Okay.
Okay, the concerns and that come to my mind on it deal with the tree branch. So the 5-foot mark back, either the tree branch would have to be removed or someone is gonna thump their head on it. At the 3-foot mark, as I viewed it, and that Ed could walk by it and the tree isn't gonna bother him at all. At the
But
4-foot
that
mark.
still doesn't make the standard for the overhang.
I understand. At the 4-foot mark, then it becomes questionable. So then the question, basically, in terms of hardship, is that there isn't, aside from the tree, I don't know of anything else that it really has to go around. Now, so for safety reasons, it's the tree that's probably the thing that we're talking about more than anything else. Aesthetically, we're looking at the neighborhood, from north to south, and we've got a sidewalk to the north that would line up with it if it was at the 3-foot mark. What we've done in other areas of town, and we've got that information, there, but what's happened in other parts of town is most of the variances or deviations from it have occurred in the sidewalk committee. I haven't researched all the way back, but in my memory, this may be the first time that the commission did not go with the recommendation from the committee. And that was one of the reasons why last week I was hoping someone would have seconded Mr. Johnson's motion to put the whole thing off for this week. So, depending on your view, as David said, of the ordinance and, what constitutes a hardship or a reason for, issuing a variance, aside from, what the committee did, okay? I guess that's where we are. At least that's my view of it. That's where we are.
With that, I'll make a motion that we approve the variance that was also approved in the sidewalk committee minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So we would say that it went with a 3-2.
I saw a 3-2 vote, which means it passes.
Okay. So, and I thank you gentlemen for coming in.
Thank you
So-
all for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Moving on to new business number 3. Authorize the mayor to sign the employer's subscription agreement, Health Pool of South Dakota. Jen, is this something you would like to address?
Certainly. This is actually this subscription agreement is something we see on an annual basis. I don't believe it's ever come before the commission in my recent memory. Would like you to take a look at it this evening. We have made the recommendation, as per this document here, to move the deductible from $250 to $1,000. Effective July 1st, all employee plans.
There'll be some, I don't wanna say fumbling, but there'll be some transition period in there, right?
There will.
When it- you know,
Correct. We'll all be
as we move
required
from the
to meet
250 to
another
to the $1,000.
$750 deductible after July 1st, and we'll just,
And the health committee did meet. I was at the meeting, Jen was at the meeting, and the health pool discussed the utilization and where they were at and what they would be looking at, you know, down the road, 12 months from now. They were in agreement that some changes needed to be made, but at this point in time, because of negotiated contracts, the only change could be made to the deductible. And so the committee reached a consensus that this is where the deductible would need to go to make an attempt toward getting some of their health costs under control.
and hats off to the committee and to all of the employees who saw the necessary evil and made the recommendation that we do what we need to do.
I make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the employee subscription agreement with the Health Pool of South Dakota.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Authorize the mayor to sign change order number 5, water treatment plant improvements for 2013. Chad, Fred, either one of you want to address this?
Go ahead. Or I can, whatever.
This change order 5 takes care of RFP 14, 15, and 16. There's a 12-inch gate valve box to the west tower line that was installed on the west side of the creek, and a hydrant was also put there to accommodate future construction on 4th Street, so we could actually backflush that line. That one was completed. There is a 18-inch ductile iron effluent filter line coming up in the basement that actually sprung a leak. Was that back in like January? No, it was after that.
Was that when we pressure tested it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was February, right there at
February,
the,
March timeframe
Yep.
that we need to get replaced. So that would be RFP 15, and then we need 2 air relief valves on that backwash line downstairs in the filter pipe gallery, and that is RFP 16. So the total on that was $26,366.
Sorry, 26,366.
$26,366.
Okay. Thanks.
And where does that put us with contingencies?
You may recall that there was a small contingency upon award based upon the award. The alternate bid was the significant discussion at that time, and the alternate bid would have been had we just left the clear well in place and filled it and demoed it later. And we received the net cost, we believe was much better to have this contractor do it now than if we'd have done it later, we'd have paid much more. But by accepting that alternate, we basically conceded the fact that we have a very small amount of contingency left on the project. And also, as I recall, as part of that discussion, it was very clear that once we exceed the contingency, any funds to cover that exceedance, that's a word, would come from reserves. And so we're into the reserves for just under 40,000 right now with this.
With
change
this
order.
project?
Right.
We
And this is
originally-
from the water plant reserve?
It is from the, I can't remember which reserve it was.
So we need to specify that, don't we?
It was well, I think it was well improvement reserve, and we earmarked $150,000 as far as contingency for this project. I'm pretty sure it was well, I think it was well treatment reserve that we actually looked at.
It could probably just be researched and noted when you find it in the minutes, so that we make sure we're not inadvertently
We're
switching.
taking it from the wrong
reserves, you
fund.
know, and-
Yeah.
That's where it's
We'll
from.
back up.
We have
And
a
for
motion.
those that weren't there and that during the testing and that, you know, it was to pressure test for leaks and that, and all of a sudden the pressure got up, I want to say it was around 30 pounds, and all of a sudden it dropped to 0. And in the researching as to
elbow
what
on the bottom?
happened, and that, when the line was put in for the chlorine, the tube went down to probably within 1 inch of the bottom of the pipe, and over the years, it had eroded down through, and so when the pressure was applied, blew a hole out in the bottom of the pipe.
These are things that we find during construction, and especially upgrade projects, and if you trip across them, it's probably a good thing to replace them at the time.
Mhm.
I feel kind of bad, we did a $3.5 million upgrade to the plant, and then had to go back later on and, you know, at twice or 3 times the price, dig right back into it a month or 2 later. So these are things that we want to correct as we find them, that will make sure that the project itself remains solid for a longer time.
Kind of like remodeling an old house.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And what the mayor and Fred are talking about is the, it'd be the RFP 15. That's the bulk of the cost here, is $20,000. And that's line was the, as it indicates in here, the filter effluent line, which was not under pressure before, because that was gravity flow into the clear well. Had it been under pressure before, we probably would have had a break.
Had a break
long before now.
long before now.
Yeah.
So,
It only took 30 pounds of pressure and blew it out.
Which it should hold a lot more being cast.
Yes.
Yeah, it should hold that a lot more than that. But that line is, well, it's not normally under pressure whatsoever, but it's just the fact that,
And in the process, that chlorine line was cut off and shortened.
yeah, we fixed it.
So now that it empties into the middle of the water flow instead of down at the bottom.
With that, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 5 for the water treatment plant improvements in the amount of
26,366.
$26,366, and to be pulled from the proper reserve account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution 2014-12, dedicate city-owned property as public right-of-way. Chad, would you address this?
sure, thank you, Your Honor. This is a resolution similar to another one we have done previously, and basically what this is there's some parcels that the city shows as owning as opposed to being dedicated to the public right-of-way. These particular parcels are where there are streets in place, and the common, and I guess I'd say proper procedure is that it not be a city-owned parcel, but it's land dedicated to the public use right-of-way. And so these legal descriptions, we were able to get these from some title work that the state DOT had done. These are along Second Street for their reconstruction. They hired a title company to research those, and these came up as city-owned lots. Well, they're not lots, it's public right-of-way. There is a differentiation between. But the long and short is we used the legal descriptions exactly as created by the title company who researched these deeds, which were back before 1900. And so that's how old they are, and it took quite some doing to find them. But we have a good confidence, I shared them with David, we have a good confidence in title company's work to confirm that in these old property transactions. So what this would do is, in essence, change them from a city-owned lot and dedicate them to the public right-of-way. I don't have with me right now which streets these are, but it's on the north side of Second Street, between Union and a couple of the streets between Union and Washington. I don't know which ones off the top of my head because they're just legal descriptions here, but that's what this would do.
This is just a house cleaning.
House cleaning, yes, thanks for
Yeah,
pointing it out, right.
The only question that comes to my mind, and for clarification, if in what we do now, and that, let's say it's out in front of my house, and currently what I pay property taxes on ends at the curb because of that. Now, when this is done back, does it turn into a lot like everyone else's in town where you pay taxes to the middle of the street? Or does that, and does what we're doing just basically dedicate it to the right of way and it becomes nobody's property?
That's what it becomes. It becomes
Becomes
nobody's
nobody's
property.
property.
And these are the platted lots, which are, they're north of the current east-west dedicated right-of-way. They're in the streets. Essentially, these streets are running across privately owned lots. And the city happens to be the owner of those privately owned lots. And so it's not as if they're lots
Where
south
you
of
could
those.
build a house on.
Right. Technically, I suppose if
Or-
the city would sell them, you could, because it's not a,
But
you know,
if
but
it's
we're
on
never
the
gonna do
road.
that, right? Yeah, it's a road, and it's been that way
Middle of a road.
for 100 years, you know?
Yeah.
And
So this got classified wrong 120 years ago, and
Right.
more or less.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess the only question is that by doing this, we're not gonna go down the middle of the street now and say, okay, by the way, you pay property taxes on 30 more feet because of it, or,
I don't believe.
It's not gonna
so.
do
Is
that. Sounds good.
Do you own some of this property, Mayor?
No, but I didn't want it to come up later on as to, well, by the way, and that you went ahead and deeded this back to me, and now I've gotta pay for taxes on 30 more feet. So,
As long as you pay your
'cause
front footage
you
fee
can
on it,
bet
we don't.
somebody's gonna say that,
I'll make a motion to dedicate city-owned property as public right-of-way.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appoint to the Water Advisory Committee, Jordan Youngberg. And this appointment is to fill a vacancy that was created by one of our Water Advisory Committee persons becoming a city councilman,
Commissioner.
commissioner.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jordan Youngberg to the Water Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have attached bills for approval. Any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have bills for ratification.
Make a motion that we ratify the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have attached some personnel adjustments.
Make a motion to approve the personnel as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no other announcements or other business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
This must have been from last week.
That was.